Welcome to CCN News. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, February 20th. Warren and Sanders say that their campaigns raised the biggest debate day haul yet. George Zimmerman is back in the news. He is suing Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg for defamation and seeking $265 million. An Ohio woman called 911 after parents canceled her phone service. And the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre will soon be a part of the curriculum for Oklahoma schools. Let's get to the news. 20 presidential debate last night was a bit of a fire starter. Here's some clips if you missed it.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another. This country has worked for the rich for a long time and left everyone else in the dirt. It is time to have a president who will be on the side of working families and be willing to get out there and fight for them. That is why I am in this race, and that is how I will beat Donald Trump.
Senator Warren, you've been critical of Mayor Bloomberg on this issue.
Yes, I have, and I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. That just doesn't cut it. The mayor has to stand on his record, and what we need to know is exactly what's lurking out there. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is that?
Let me finish.
How many is that?
None of them accuse me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me put, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want to be clear. Some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
Senator? No.
Is that right?
Senator?
Tonight?
Senator, the company and somebody else, in this case, a man or a woman, or could be more than that, they decided when they made an agreement that they wanted to keep it quiet for everybody's interest. They signed the agreements, and that's what we're going to live with.
I'm sorry. No, the question is, are the women bound by being muzzled by you? And you could release them from that immediately, because understand, this is not just a question of the mayor's character. This is also a question about electability. We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the
night of duking it out on the debate stage paid off for both Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, whose campaigns both recorded the most contributions ever received on a debate day. Warren's campaign announced early Thursday that it's pulling in more than 2.8 million after the event in Las Vegas, and that was held just days before the state's Democratic primary caucus on Saturday. As Sanders' campaign says it raised 2.7 million from nearly 150,000 donations. Warren and Sanders, who have both built their campaigns around the promise to reduce wealth inequality, were among those who spent the night throwing jabs at former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg. George Zimmerman, who lives in Polk County, filed a lawsuit on Tuesday at the 10th Judicial Circuit Court. The lawsuit names Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg as defendants. The suit claims that Warren and Buttigieg separately defamed Zimmerman in Twitter statements on February 5th, recognizing what would have been Trayvon Martin's 25th birthday. The suit says that both did so for political gain in misguiding and malicious attempts to bolster their standards among African American voters, all at Zimmerman's expense. Senator Warren, a senator from Massachusetts, has about 3.6 million Twitter followers, as Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, has 1.6. Zimmerman is represented by Larry Klayman of the Freedom Watch, a Washington organization that frequently files lawsuits on behalf of conservative causes. In the court filing, Zimmerman is seeking damages awarded of $265 million. February 26 will mark 8 years since Martin, 17, was shot and killed by George Zimmerman. A 36-year-old Ohio woman twice called 911 to report her emergency. Her parents canceled her cell phone service, according to a report, but the only response Saloni Katarpo got was a phony arrest, according to the Smoking Gun. The woman called 911 on February 13th to complain that her folks had cut off her service, and she demanded that the police respond to her family's Canton home, the news outlet reported. Katarpo was warned that 911 was only for legitimate emergencies, but the belligerent woman called again 2 hours later and insisted that her complaint was valid, according to the criminal complaint cited by the outlet. She was charged with disturbing a public service, a 4th-degree felony, and booked into the Stark County Jail. She was released on $2,500 bond and is due in court on February 27th. Oklahoma leaders announced on Wednesday that the state will be moving forward with embedding the story of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre into the curriculum of all Oklahoma schools. On the last day of May in 1921, a white mob estimated about 10,000 people descended on the Greenwood District, an affluent black neighborhood in Tulsa known as the Black Wall Street, and burned it to the ground. Hundreds of African Americans were killed and hundreds more were unaccounted for. But that part of history went unmentioned for decades in classrooms across the state. The killings remain Tulsa's dirty secret, State Senator Kevin Matthews said at a news conference on Wednesday. And once again, thank you for watching CCN News. I am your host, Captivating Christian. And as always, be the change you want to see. If you want change, the change starts with you. As always, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave comments below. I would like to hear what you think about these stories and more. Alright, have a good day. Peace.